start with some questions. We could start with some questions first, really. Is her... Yes.
How many people have you apprenticed by?
Probably around 6, 7. Yeah.
Very good. when was the most recent apprentice?
Probably 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Like he's tattooing full time now. He works out with Sam Kane and White Tattoo and also with us. And
Who's that?
Alex Kid Tattoo.
Oh, yeah.
And then the one before him was Martin Creek. Yeah, he's at Ocean Inc. And another one, Benno, he's down Canberra. They're probably the latest ones, yeah.
Benno's in Braddon. He's got the shop above the florist, hey? Yeah. Outcast?
Yep.
Yeah, sick.
Yep.
Nice.
What sort of age group have you taken on? Like, what ages? Like younger people?
Had like young and sort of middle age and but sort of the younger ones are a little bit harder to sort of, get on board and stuff. But they've all been pretty good, had the ups and downs and all the whatnot.
Yeah.
You are getting absolutely spit roasted right now.
let me add a little bit more. This could be an interesting question, then I'm going to shut up. How many haven't made it through their apprenticeship?
Yeah, that's
and
a good
why?
Probably had about 3 that haven't made it, and just sort of didn't want to put in the hard yards at the start, and were expecting you're going to start tattooing straight away, and didn't really want to learn about it and stuff, and but that's pretty much.
I feel like now everything's so instant. There's like Netflix, Uber, Amazon, all that sort of stuff. Everything's instant. So people are used to just like getting straight into it. So when they get an apprenticeship, they don't feel like they have to do something for a whole year before they can touch a machine or anything, like mop floors and all that sort of stuff. And I think also like Tattoo TV, like Miami Ink, all that sort of shit. It's an apprentice and he's just tattooing straight away. Talking to that, a microphone, one of them.
I can talk pretty loud.
Oh, fuck.
I just have a question coming from like an owner perspective. Do you guys pay your apprentices or are they paying you? Like I know a lot of shops are different these days, so I'm just wondering what's sort of going to be the standard. I know as an apprentice I never got paid.
Yep.
I'm just curious what you guys...
So the way we do it at 13 Feet, they go on the counter for a year on a wage. Because, this day and age we can't really do slave labour like it used to work, you know what I mean? Like how we all did it. Like you can't do that anymore. So they go on a wage and then get the knowledge, things like that, work through it that way, learn customer service and just dealing with people, really. That's the hardest part, is because you get such a range of people. And, a person in the morning could turn up at the shop and be super lovely and then turn up at 10 o'clock at night, be shit-faced and, not so nice. So that's a big learning curve, especially these days, because especially with the younger generation, they're so used to just dealing with people via phone, via a mobile phone, where when they come face to face, it's a whole different story, you know what I mean? Like you have to look at somebody and then you get weird feelings when you've got to deal with people, and some people can be aggressive, some people can be too relaxed, you know what I mean? So it's quite a wide range.
I feel like that's like the good introduction, because they just have to make small talk for like 5-10 minutes while the customer's in the waiting area.
Yeah.
So it's like that sort of dip your toe in the waters, because it's like once you start touring, you're going to make conversation for 5-6 hours, So if they can't sort of do it on the desk and make the customer feel comfortable and welcome, then they're going to be fucked by the time they have to tattoo.
Yeah, because then you got to add the tattoo issues, your own issues, your nerves, and you're getting designs together and dealing with the backwards and forwards of doing, say, custom work or just any changes. You know what I mean? yeah, it's a lot to take on.
I feel like everyone in this convention, their apprenticeship would have been different, or their intro to tattooing. Like, there's some people that, you know, started off doing home jobs and somehow worked their way into a shop, and then other people, you know, went around with portfolios and dropped portfolios off, and other people it's just right place, right time. So it's sort of like there's not one specific way to get an apprenticeship. It just really depends on the person, depends on the environment and circumstances.
It can be just timing for sure. But then, it's about what you put into it, isn't it? Like, that doesn't change. That's the one thing that doesn't change. You got to put in the effort, time, sacrifice. That's the main part.
Yeah, I feel like in most cases as well, when people are like showing their portfolios, and it's like a lot of them are like bad, bad. But as long as you're flicking through the portfolio and you're like, oh well, the last page is less bad than the first page. Then there's progression.
There's progress,
and as long as you're seeing progression, then that's all you can ask for, really. Because it's like, half the time, you can teach someone to draw. Like, so many tattooers in here had no art background at all and got into it and just learned. But I feel like you can't teach someone, like, personality.
Yeah,
you know,
personality and manners.
Totally. It's a people job, and it's like, if someone's going to apprentice you, they're spending so much time with you for years. They got to like you.
Yeah.
You know.
And being nice to people's free. You know what I mean? It's not. There's not a cost to it. You just be decent to people, and you're going to have a good career. Yeah. Like, that's the formula, basically. If you're an asshole, you're not going to last long.
Which is why I found it like sort of a lot harder for people when they're essentially like cold calling shops. You know, they're just sending out mass emails where it's like, I want to apprentice, and they haven't stepped foot in the shop, they haven't built a relationship there, they haven't gotten tattooed there, all that sort of stuff. It's like, it's going to be so much harder for them. It's like, your portfolio must be pretty fucking amazing if you're going to have even a slight chance. But yeah, it's sort of like, I feel like building a rapport with a shop first is always going to better your chances.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Questions? We're just riffing, baby. That's jazz.
Yeah, you've got to, like, to getting tattooed at the shop you want to apprentice at, that's always going to put you up the list of, you know, if there is a list. Yeah. For sure. Because you're showing interest in maybe a couple of the artists there, or you're like, you know, you're supportive of the shop. Like, it goes a long way, that sort of thing, especially in our industry.
And people won't travel for an apprenticeship. I feel like if they apply for a big name, super cool shop with like their favourite tattooers and they don't get it, they'll just be like, oh, fuck it. But no one's willing to, you know, move towns.
Yep.
Like Benny, who's here, up there. Like, Benny moved from New Zealand to the Gold Coast and didn't get paid. And worked restaurants and shit like that. You know, it's like, how bad do you want it? Like, if you want it tattooed bad enough, you make it happen. So, like, some people like won't go to the other side of Sydney for an apprenticeship. You know, that stuff matters. Like, if you go to a job and it's like, I live fucking all the way over here, but I'll move. Like, to make it happen.
Yeah, like, even for me, I live like an hour and a half, 2 hours away from my shop. You know what I mean? And I'm still doing that. Like, so I'm committed to, and that's been ingrained in me my whole life, really. I've always had to travel. So that's just part of my routine, you know. And then for apprentices to be not willing to do that sort of stuff, for me, that's a big red cross.
Yeah, and so many people, like, as we were saying earlier, like wanting things instantly and wanting to go to that big name shop and apprentice and all that sort of stuff. I feel like, in a way, apprenticing at like a shop in the suburbs, apprenticing in a small town, or like anything like that, it's like those shops are busy.
And the
like,
more humble beginnings is better.
Totally. You're going to be doing a broader variety of things, and which is beneficial. It's like, you don't want to just do trad straight away and not learn how to do script, not learn how to do tribal or anything like that.
That's how you learn about tattooing, isn't it? Like, from doing that.
Can you hold this for me?
He's just holding it.
So I'm just agreeing. You need to know all different styles, and then that's how I was taught, and then sort of grab something that you do like doing. But if you can tattoo any style.
Yeah, and it takes years to get to that, like to actual have a style, like, and be good at it, doesn't it?
Hey, Puka, just give us like a rundown of like the way you apprentice people, like from the start. When do they start tattooing? How's the progression? When do they get let free on paying customers?
Yeah.
When do they get the chains taken off?
Yeah, well, it's pretty much like all, like it's more like incentive. Like if they show, like, drawing
Initiative,
and stuff,
yeah.
progression, where the better you are and the, more you're showing that you want it,
Yep.
like you're going to get there quicker.
Yeah, the more effort they're putting in. There's
Yeah.
not like a time limit, but the more effort they're putting in the progression, then yeah.
But usually it's like at least a good couple of years,
Yep.
Before sort of, learn about machines, how they work and stuff. And then, get some friends in, start tattooing them. And then you might start doing, like $50 apprentice tattoos and, just little sort of bangers. And it sort of starts from there. But
Do you get them to tattoo on fruit or on...
Yeah, like skins and
Yeah.
but like you can't, friends
not-
will always
Yeah,
want free
yeah,
tattoos,
yeah.
and there's nothing can better human skin. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's usually the way that we do it, sort out our way.
I feel like with my apprenticeship, I got super lucky because I wasn't looking for an apprenticeship, and it was right place, right time, and I was getting tattooed, and I just asked the guy that had been tattooing me for a while, I'm like, do you know anywhere in town that's hiring, like bars or cafes? And he's like, if you come in Saturday mornings and scrub tubes and serve people, I'll give you $100. I was like, fuck yeah, $100. That's like $12 an hour. That's sick. And so I was doing that, and then it turned into 2 days a week. And then it was like a busy little street shop in Wagga in New South Wales. And he just needed another tattooer because the shop was getting busier. And he's like, it's going to be impossible to convince anyone to move to fucking Wagga to tattoo here. So he's like, I need to apprentice someone. And I'd just been there for a couple of years. So I was like, yeah, all right, I'll do it. Sweet. And it was sort of, you're doing everything. And it's weird. It's kind of cruel in a way where the apprentice sort of gets drip-fed all the kind of walk-in-y, small Pinteresty kind of things.
Yep.
And they're the hardest things. There's no margin for error, the little fine line infinity symbols and all that, and Roman numerals, all that sort of stuff. It's like mistakes are so fucking visible if you make them. And it's like such a trial by fire. But I feel like by doing those things, it makes you better eventually in the long run.
For sure.
And the people getting those are like the most appreciative too.
Yeah.
The middle-aged mum that comes in and gets a paw print because a dog just died. Like she's stoked, leaves Google reviews, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And that 18-year-old cool guy with a panther just like, sick.
Yeah. Just grunts at you and walks out.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I did my apprenticeship at Workers Skin in Redfern, which was pretty rough and tumble. It was in the middle of like a lot of trouble that was going on in the area. And I worked for a guy called Chris Phillips, and he was a Scottish fellow from Glasgow. And really the only reason he gave me a job was because I used to live in Edinburgh in Scotland, and I got his humour. So, and because before I was a tattooer, I was a carpenter. I did my apprenticeship as a carpenter, and so I'd lived over, like, my mum's English. We lived over in England, so I was travelling around Europe and doing all that sort of stuff, backpacking and working, like before tattooing. And yeah, so I lived in Edinburgh, and it was... We used to drink a lot, and and so all the tradespeople, so they got a certain type of humour, and so yeah, that's pretty much why he took me on, because I could understand him. And he's like, "Oh, you've lived in Scotland?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I've never met anybody that's lived in Scotland before over here." And so yeah, that's how it all started. And it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was the best way to do things, but I was pretty much given the keys because he didn't want to deal with what was going on, and just left me with it. And that was it. And Redfern at that time was still Redfern, there was no cool cafes or it was a very different place. And it's all that whole strip's gone now, and they're all high rises. But the old terrace houses have been bulldozed.
How did you start and when?
It was 94 and then out Camden, out west.
Yeah.
Al Mitchell, he now works down the south coast. Yeah, but it was like turn up to the shop. Like they'd partied the night before, so he'd have to clean the shop, then make all the needles by hand. Yeah. Didn't have keys, so I'd have to wait for him to get there. And yeah, then like I didn't start tattooing for, God, it was about 4 years, sort of just doing that every day and work for nothing, then leave, like pack fertiliser from 12 at midnight till 5 in the morning to make some money, and back to the shop each day. And yeah, when he weren't there, I'd get the machines out and tattoo a couple of mates and stuff. And yeah, but yeah, it was like a lot harder, I think, back then. And you know, all these the pre-made needles and stuff now, it's a hell of a lot easier. And
everyone was way more guarded with their information.
oh yeah. Like you'd go and ask someone at a tattoo shop, you know, what inks you use, and they'd just tell you the complete opposite. And, yeah, so it was trial and error. And, you'd have to get supplies from like National in America sent over, or Spalding and stuff. So yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's changed a lot. But still, like, I think the fundamentals don't change really. Like, it has been a little bit lost of late, I feel like, the last few years.
Yeah.
But now I think, you know, the younger generations are starting to want to learn about tattooing instead of just using it as a money-grabbing scheme, you know?
Good old mate monster. I think just like drawing, like, you know, like painting and stuff, rather than just on the iPad. Like, yeah, just use your brain a bit more. That sort of like it's easier to get Procreate and all that stuff, where I can't use Procreate. Like, I'm still stuck in the old sort of days. Like, I have an iPad and stuff, but then, yeah, like there's nothing better than sitting there and, you know, drawing it from scratch. And like you get some reference, but yeah, just keep drawing and drawing and drawing, painting, and sort of you'll see, you know, look at old stuff, and that gives you like a little kick up the butt to sort of do a bit better, and you'll know what sort of to do that will better you from your older stuff. And
also, I think for me, first one in, last one out apprentices. That should be across the board. It's like, because that shows commitment. Like, you've got to want it that bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it doesn't get easier. Like, it just engulfs your whole life. And that's just what happens with tattooing. Like, the more you get into it, the more interesting it becomes, the more people you meet, and, you know, if you start traveling, you meet people, like, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So that means it takes more time. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think, like, getting tattooed as much as possible as well, which can be hard. Like, being an apprentice, you're broke as fuck. So I feel like a lot of apprentices, you know, having a night job as well, like working a bar or whatever, like any chance you can get tattooed by as many different people as you can, pick their brains as much as you can, consume as much tattoo content as you can, watch every documentary, read every book. You know, on YouTube there's Tattoo Age.
Tattoo Age is a great one. Yep.
I watched that when
Last
I was
Sparrow.
an apprentice, and I was watching fucking Freddie Corbin and getting all hyped on Freddie Corbin. You know,
I know.
it's like,
it's amazing. We should put that on the big screen.
yeah, like so.
That'd be
There's
cool.
so much stuff out there. Tattoo Nation is a great
That's a good
doco.
one.
There's the Hori Smoku Sailor Jerry doco. It's so great. Like, there's so much awesome stuff out there, and you just watch it, and you get really excited and hyped, and it's like, I feel like that sort of excitement's enough to just sustain you through grueling first one in, last one out, all that sort of stuff, because it's all going to pay off, and it continues to pay off. Like, you guys would agree, like the longer that you're in tattooing, it's still fucking sick. It doesn't stop being fun.
It gets better.
It gets
the
so much
more
better.
you're confident you are, the more people you meet, the more conventions you do, the more you're in the industry, the more exciting it becomes.
Yeah, and I feel like when people get to the point where they get to start doing their first tattoos in their apprenticeship, they go one of two ways. That like your first tattoo is going to be fucking garbage, guaranteed. Like no one's first tattoo is good.
No one.
But you're either going to be like, oh, that was fucked. I'm so bad at this. I hate this. I never want to do this again. Or you're going to be like, nah, give me another one. Give me another one. Give me another one.
Yeah.
And like the people that stick out apprenticeships, it's like still like now it's like I've been tattooing 9 years and I'm like, give me another one. You know, it's like, nah, I can do that better. Give me another one. So it's not going to go away. So as long as you're hungry and as long as you're like absorbing as much as you can from everywhere, like it's going to sustain you and you're going to be so revved up and ready for it and excited to go to work and excited to be the last one to leave every day.
Yeah, and I think like a trap that people fall into is like, oh, I don't do that, or oh, I don't do this, and it's like, that's bullshit. Like, yeah, it's like if you go to a doctor, right, and they're like, oh, we don't treat that, and you're like, what? I'm at a doctor. You're like, you go into a tattoo shop to get a tattoo, you know what I mean? Like, fair enough, the genitals or whatever, like questionable handler's fee, whatever it's got to be.
You got to do one dick though. One dick.
You have to.
Just for the story.
But, yeah, hey?
Just for the story.
Yeah,
just so you
for
can
the
say you've
story.
done it.
Yeah, just for the story. But I mean, like, besides that, you know what I mean? You've got to be willing to have a go. And yeah.
And I feel like a lot of mentors as well, like when they're giving feedback, I think now, like I know people that have apprenticed in their 30s. I know like the guy that taught me apprenticed in his 40s.
Yep.
I apprenticed at 21. So it's like whenever I received feedback or criticism, I took it personally and I got real bummed and I'm like, man, fuck this guy. But he's doing it so I get better. So
Yeah.
I think like no one...
It's hard to take.
Totally, but I feel like the people that are slightly older that are getting into it have more life experience and they know, oh, they're giving me this feedback, this criticism so that I can improve because they want me to improve.
Yep.
You know, so I think just like leaving your ego at the door and being there to learn. And it's like they might be blunt or rude about it, but ultimately that if they didn't want you to know it, they wouldn't tell you.
Yeah, and it can be, you use it as fuel. You know what I mean? Because people can be assholes. Like, that's a fact. But at the same time, you're just like, all right, then, fuckwit, I'm going to, I'm going to show you. And that's how you use it. You use it as fuel. Don't use it as, like, don't put your tail between your legs and start sulking. Because you're not going to get anywhere like that. Yeah, that's the reality. That's the reality of an apprenticeship, really, right there. Yeah.
How many people here are apprentices already? Well, the hands are slowly going up. Yes, and people that want an apprenticeship? Yeah. Surely you're here because you want to know shit. What shit do you want to know?
Oh, sorry. You mentioned, yesterday I was here as well for the chat, and you were saying the importance of respecting and understanding the history of tattooing.
Yep.
Aside from the great sources you just list and coming to events like this and speaking to people who've been in the industry, do you guys have any other good, like I've been walking around seeing lots of books as well, do you guys have any other recommendations or sources so we can, immerse ourselves more and understand, because it's so different now.
Yep.
Now to even just a few years ago.
Yeah, I think, books is good because you work backwards. Like you watch the documentaries and they'll talk, you'll hear certain names or certain conventions or certain books, and then you become like accustomed to that part, and then you work that out, and then you start looking for like the artist they're speaking about, and it goes back in time. And then they do flash books or they do sort of books on their lives, or you just like keep working backwards. And then you'll find out that a lot of the flash books and things like that, all the designs are older than tattooing. So you just start going down the rabbit hole and it never ends. So that's a good way to do it. But the information's there, like ultimately. So you've just got to... The documentaries are easily accessible. They're all on your phone. And then so you start making notes. That's what I do. I still do that. Like, I'm like, oh, who's that guy? I haven't heard his name. And I'm like, and I start Googling and then start working backwards. And then all of a sudden I've got a book coming. And then, you know what I mean? And then I start reading that. So, yeah. Because it's still not that easy to get hold of books. But it never has been easy to get hold of books. You know what I mean? They're all limited edition. Like, aren't they?
Yeah.
They've always been like that. So you've got to hunt.
Yeah, I think like people are the best resource. Ask
Yep.
people, go to like see someone with a tattoo outside that's old as fuck. Ask them who did it, where, all that sort of stuff. It's
Yep.
like
And see-
ask people. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah, yep. That's a good way to do it. And you work a skin out too, so you will see the aging process.
Question on that.
You find it worth to like invest in maybe like your own sort of machine and like skin to practice in your own time, maybe, or solely learn like in the shop.
In the shop.
Yeah, definitely shop, yeah.
Because well, this probably goes across the board. I'm not speaking for everyone, but for myself, if someone's got a machine, they're not learning.
That's a deal breaker.
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
If they're like, oh yeah, I've got machines, I'm like, yeah. Next.
And I feel like part of that is also like, oh sorry, part of that's like you're just going to learn bad habits that you're just going to have to unlearn anyway. And going to a shop and being like, yeah, look at these tattoos I've already done before getting an apprenticeship, they're going to be like, oh, like you'll be given one when the mentor feels like it's right, and then he'll probably supervise you for the first few, and you'll be doing it in the shop because I think there's that sort of trust that a mentor wants to have with an apprentice that they're not going to take the machine home and tattoo their mates on the down low. It's like you're going to do it in the shop and it's going to come and you're going to progress when you're ready to progress. And otherwise, yeah, if you're taking stuff home, you could just be doing shit wrong and not have the supervision and they're being like, you're doing this wrong. So it's like you're just going to have to unlearn it and then it's twice as hard.
The tattoo is going to be bad, the hygiene's going to be bad. There's nothing good about that situation.
Yeah.
Like, it can be a lethal weapon. Like, if someone gets an infection, like a staph infection, they can die. You know what I mean? That's reality.
That's when it goes from being a tattoo machine to a tattoo gun.
Yeah, that's right. But that's the reality of it. That's why we have such strict guidelines that we have to abide by.
Yeah.
Like, it's a real thing. It looks cool, but there's a lot of rules.
Yeah, for sure. It's I feel like doing it at home is just kind of boring anyway, It's like you're there, you're not getting the feedback, you're just sort of doing it because it's like what you tattoo a bit of latex and then you take the latex into work and they'll be like, oh, it's pretty buckled. But they could have been there as you're doing it being like, oh, you just change this, do this and it's going to be better. And then use your time at home to be watching the docos, reading the books, doing the research, doing all the other things. It's like doing the actual tattoos is such a small part of tattooing.
Yeah.
There's so many other elements like people skills, becoming a business person, like working on all those sort of things as well is where your time's better applied at home. Oh, fuck, sorry.
Yeah, you never stop learning, just eat, sleep, breathe, shit, tattoo. That's like, and the more you do it, the quicker it comes to you. Like knowledge, like the boys were saying, that's just suck everything in. Like now, like Instagram, stuff like that, you can look at everyone's work look at everyone, not just a couple of people you think's cool, where, like Todd said, there's people out there that I still haven't heard of and they blow your mind, the stuff they're doing.
Of the people that are looking for apprenticeships at the moment, how many of you have portfolios that you're painting? Kind of?
I mean, like, I've got a 3-year-old, and I'm like hitting 40, and it's like, I would love to eat, breathe, sleep, do shit that I want to do that.
Mm.
But he's got this kid that I have to interact with, like, do a job.
Does your kid sleep?
Sometimes, yeah.
Early.
Like I've got 5 kids myself and started when I was like having them when I was like 18. where that's when I was an apprentice, and that's where I'd be at the shop and then come home and then go do like night shift while, you know, my partner would watch while the kids are asleep and stuff. So yeah, that's where, like, that is hard, but then in the long run, it does pay off. Where if you're thinking, oh shit, already, it sort of mind boggles you. Yeah, so
It is doable. It's one of those things where it's time management, which is hard as fuck. And by the time your kid goes to sleep, you're probably exhausted from your kid being hypo all day. But it's sort of, you know, even if you, like, on the iPad, you know, just hop into bed, hour or whatever before you go to sleep, and just try and knock out a couple of drawings. Just.
So I think that's the plan, is like draw every night, and then once I've got a portfolio, start going to shops
Mhm.
and introduce myself. Like I just moved from New Zealand, but like I don't know anyone, and I feel like that's probably the only
That's good.
way for me.
Yeah.
And like I might only be able to give like 3 days a week or 2 days a week to an apprentice, but
That's okay, because there's business owners that have kids and they get it.
yeah.
You know, they might be like, yeah, cool. Like, I've got a 3-year-old. I know how hard that is. And like, sometimes like, not every shop requires you to be there 7 days a week either. Like, some shops are like, cool, I understand you need to work a second job to be able to apprentice, or you might be at uni or whatever it is. So like, some shops are like flexible with that. They're not going to be like, no, you have to be here 24/7. It's like, they understand that, and they're like, if they're a good like person and stuff, they'll empathize. And if they like, if you've made yourself so valuable where they want you to apprentice, they'll sort of bend over backwards a little bit to be able to have you on board. Otherwise, it's like, if you're not really offering much, they'd be like, well, we can get this person that is in 5 days a week. So it's like, make your shit really good and make a really good first impression and build a relationship and all that sort of stuff. And they'll be like, yeah, absolutely. Like, come in, you know, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or something like that. It'll work out as long as you put the effort in. But it's pretty easy to get sort of demoralized.
Yeah.
But as long as, yeah, it'll work out. As long as you want it, it'll work out. Good. I think another thing with portfolios as well, it's like, I've never had an apprenticeship, so I'm fucking wildly unqualified to be up here. But when people bring portfolios into a shop, I feel like a good thing to do is chuck the date on every sheet you do, so that when they look at it, they can be like, oh, they've just done this whole portfolio over the span of 3 weeks, and they've just crammed it. As opposed to, oh, there's stuff in here from over a year ago and it's shit. And then the last page is good. There's progression, you know? So by having the date on things, it shows that progression and it shows potential, you know? They'll be like, cool, look at how much they improved over the span of a year. They're going to improve even more over another year, another year, another year. And like, if they can see that potential, then they'll be like, oh yeah, we want this person because this person works and there is a lot in here and it's a bunch of different stuff. Yeah, you know, they're chucking in some script, they're chucking in some Pinteresty things, some trad, whatever.
Yeah, and you can't teach time either. Like, it does take time to get good at anything, not just tattooing. It just takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. So sometimes people learn quicker than others. There's no like rule. For sure.
Are the people going for apprenticeships, who's gone into a shop and asked for one? Two very slow hands. Are the people going for apprenticeships, who's just fired off emails or DMs asking for apprenticeships? Or you're too scared? Cowards. I think going in is always best. Like, to make that impression.
Always best. And you're probably going to get turned away.
Yes.
That's the reality, because people are working.
Yeah.
You know, and that's part of the process also. Like, because I'm only speaking for myself, but if people come in wanting an apprenticeship, they've got to come a few times.
Yeah.
Yep.
It shows persistence.
It shows that you're going to be persistent. you keep turning up, and if it's maybe the 5th time, I'll be like, okay, maybe I'll have a look. And I know that sounds harsh, but that's how strongly I feel about it. Because if you can't come back 5 times, you can't do an apprenticeship.
And also
You're not going to make it. It's because it's hard work.
And not everyone wants an apprentice either. Like, that's the reality. It's like you might really want to apprentice under someone and they don't feel like they're in a position to have an apprentice.
Yep.
Because it's a huge responsibility and it's a lot of time, a lot of effort. It's their reputation that's forever going to be assigned to you. If you're fucking up in your everyday life and you, I don't know, vandalize something, that's a reflection on the shop. It's a reflection on the mentor. So they have to be really fucking certain about apprenticing someone before agreeing.
It's got to be working out for us, you know, because we don't owe anything. Yeah. But, you know, like you're going to add to our legacy. So it does reflect heavily, you know what I mean? And it's, I don't know, it can be tough.
Thank fuck that was empty.
But it can be tough, and it's a lot of responsibility. Like, you know, I've got kids as well. One of them's down there, and he knows that we're not, you know, I'm not at home a lot because I'm at work. I've got apprentices. I've got shops, and that takes away from them. So it's got to be worth my while to put my time into it. So
and like, if you're valuable to the shop, like your mentor, like that relationship extends outside of work a lot of times too. Like
totally,
I know Dan that apprenticed me. Like he told me when I started, he goes, you know, if you ever need anything outside of work, you can always call me. He was like a second dad in a way. And it was sort of like, you know, he'd pick me up in the middle of nowhere at 3 a.m. and shit like that. And it was like, you want someone like that. You don't want to apprentice at a shop where they're just taking advantage of scab labour or whatever. You know, you got to be, because there's so many shops out there, so many apprentice factories where it's like, you know, they're just using these young people and paying them fuck all and then not delivering the apprenticeship. Like it's way more common than you'd think. So it's like, you want to apprentice under someone that you really trust and someone that you really admire personally, as well as their work ethic and the quality of their work. I think that's super important.
Yeah, it's definitely really important. I had something to say, but I forgot. I can't remember what I was going to say. Question?
Are there any signs to look out for like these apprentice factories that you're talking about? Like, red flags that really stand out for someone?
If you've got to pay them, that's a pretty red flag.
Yeah.
That's an old school trick. And, you know, it's maybe not a bad idea, but that's not what we do.
No.
I feel like if they're constantly having apprentices and those apprentices are constantly quitting or being fired for whatever reason, and it just seems like they're always churning through just a roster of apprentices and no one actually
learns anything.
Sticks it out and goes on to become a tattooer. Like, you just look at the shop, it's like, who's apprenticed there? Where are they now? You know, if everyone that apprenticed there isn't in tattooing anymore, then they'll probably just chewed up and spit out onto the next.
Yeah, there's one, like a shop out our way, and they have like an apprentice program where they just get you in, like you're tattooing, you know, in a month, and then they're advertising on Marketplace, like $20 tattoos. It's just shit where they're just hunting for money, not looking out for you and your welfare. They just want money. So I think they're the ones you want to, you know, look out for. And
Any other questions?
Sorry, another one. I know you guys mentioned the importance of diversifying and not just selecting. I work in a shop with a very small demographic, but how do you get exposure about different skin types and skin tones? Like, how did you guys learn how to tattoo on, you know, older people or people with different backgrounds?
Time.
yeah, it was just
takes
trial
time.
and error.
Trial and error,
Like you
definitely.
Yeah, you
There's
still learn like to this day. So it's
I feel like if you're working in a street shop as well, you have a way more diverse range of people coming in. You'll have the nana that's coming in with her granddaughter to get matching tattoos on her 18th birthday. You'll have, the lads come in on a bucks or whatever, so as opposed to, say, a private studio setting where people are going there for a specific artist that does a specific style, in a walk-in sort of environment, you're going to be exposed to a lot more. In terms of the tattoos themselves and the people themselves, and then it's just like you said, time. It's like
time, and street shopping's that's like the breeding ground, because you don't have a choice.
Street shops are great because it's like you have to learn to work under pressure, which is good, and it's like you have to draw something on the spot. You can't spend 2 weeks drawing it. You have to, okay, cool. And it shows competency and it shows confidence. And you have to sit there and you have to handle it, and they might want changes and you have to change it and all that sort of stuff. And you just can't be flappable, You need to be able to roll with the punches and adapt, and ultimately that's just going to make you, it's just all experience, so that eventually at some point if you decide to move to a private studio and you have someone that's an absolute pain in the dick and they're changing it and changing it and changing it, you're like, this is fucking easy, it's fine, I've had worse, So it's not to say that apprenticing at a private studio isn't beneficial, because I feel like you might get more quality time with the people teaching you as well. But there's a million ways to skin a cat.
Yeah, it's definitely a different pace, but street shopping is obviously what we do. So it's you can you got to learn on your feet, and it's not if tattooing was easy, everyone would do it. And that's the way you sort of got to look at it, and from my experience in the industry and the people I look up to all across the world, they started in street shops, and that's why they have such a good grounding, because they might work in private studios now, and life changes, and you get tired of the craziness sometimes, which I'm not yet, but but they did years on the floor, you know what I mean? And that's where you learn, that's what I think, anyway, in my opinion, that's where you learn.
You get the best stories from street shops.
Yeah, you get the best stories.
You get the weirdest shit. Some absolute freaks.
And it is, it's not, you work late, you do long hours, things like that. It's a different setup, but you learn resilience, and then you move on. You know what I mean? You can stay there or move on. It is what it is. But
it's cool. It's fun, and it's like, even in the moment, you might be like, "This is an absolute punish. This person is a psycho. I can't wait for them to leave." And then once they leave, you're like, "That was fucking hilarious." I have that now.
You reflect on it the next day, and you're like, "How was that guy or that girl or whatever?" You're just like nuts, and then another one starts up.
I don't know how politically correct this is, and I don't know if this one's being recorded. Okay, but I worked at a busy street shop in St Kilda, and my mate apprenticed, and he was 35, and he's had life experience, and he's done all sorts of wild shit, but he was slow as fuck. He was like the slowest tattooer ever. He was doing a good job, but it's like, fuck, man, like, pick up the pace. Like, you could have done 2 more tattoos, and not to rush, but it's like taking the piss a bit, like fucking speed it up. And our boss asked a homeless lady out the front if she'd like a free tattoo, and she's like, yeah, fuck yeah, I want a free tattoo. And he's like, the only catch is you have to pick from his flash. And she came in, she liked his stuff, and she got, I think it was like butterfly or something maybe. Her name was Mercedes, and she asked to bring her trolley into the shop, and we're like, the trolley stays outside. And then she was just screaming and wailing and kicking, and this is sorry, Louis. It was the fastest fucking tattoo he's ever done. It's like, you can do it. It is possible. You can speed up the pace, and from that point on, he's like, I'm so glad I did that. That was the worst experience ever. I'm so glad I've got that experience, and now I know I can tattoo faster, so I've got nothing to worry about. Surely there's going to be a couple more questions.
Any more questions?
Surely.
You're done? Okay.
Done.
Any more questions? Last questions?
air any grievances you might have.
Get it out now.
It's Festivus. We're going to have the airing of grievances, feats of strength.
Okay, I think that's a wrap.
No, thanks for coming.
All right, thank you everyone. Thanks for all the support over the weekend, and let's continue this next year.
Also, if you do have questions and you're just too shy to ask or whatever, I'm sure any of us will be more than happy. We'll be around. You can always just come up and chat to us.
Yeah, have a chat to us or...
Send us a message, whatever.
Yep.
Cool, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.